Well, no, that was his alarm. Are we on? Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Hometown. This has been the hardest event I think we've ever put together. So, one thing you notice, I'm not wearing a mask. I have it right here. The way we're interpreting the rules are that if you can't socially distance by 6 feet, you need to wear a mask. But the studios has done a fantastic job of separating everybody around. You can't see the audience, but what little audience there is, which are all candidates, are all tape lines. So to better communicate with everybody watching, we're not going to wear masks while we're up here. And the candidates will take them off, put them on, so Ryan, you can take yours off. We want to get right into it. We have a lot to cover tonight. I want to have the panelists introduce themselves quickly. Then we're going to get right into the city commission seat. So Mandy, if you'd start down there.
Hi there, Mandy Miles, editor of the QS Weekly newspaper.
Good.
Is that all?
Got it? That works.
You can say whatever you want, Joe.
I'm Joe Moore, new news director at US 1 Radio, trying to fill the shoes of Bill Becker. Very new to politics in Monroe County and Key West. I went through the Bill Becker School of Politics on the local scene for like 3 weeks, and I got a little bit of information, so don't expect any mind-numbing questions from me.
Baptism by fire, right?
You got it.
I'm Richard Tamburino. I'm the publisher and editor of the Key West Citizen and Free Press newspapers, and thanks for having me back, Todd. It was fun doing this the first go-round several weeks ago.
I'm Stephanie Capel. I'm the executive director of the Florida Keys Outreach Coalition and Todd's favorite person.
Yes, tonight. Well, the night is young. Okay, Ryan. Ryan is running for Key West Commission seat 6. He's running against the incumbent Clayton Lopez. Clayton was not able to be here tonight. Clayton had put out a statement that I'm sure will be distributed. So you can see that. But we've got Ryan, and we're going to spend about 15 minutes with the panelists, get to know Ryan. Ryan, introduce yourself quickly.
Hi, my name is Dr. Ryan Barnett. I'm a conch. I love Key West. I feel I represent the future leadership of Key West. I think right now, new energy in the city commission is critically important, and that's why I'm here. I'm a new dad to my son Lucas, and I care deeply about our future generations. I am certainly disappointed that Commissioner Lopez was unable to attend tonight. Part of the reason I entered this race is democracy and getting each other on the record when it comes to accountability for some of the decisions being made in our district. And I look forward to being here tonight. I showed up for a reason, and you have my word. I would show up on the dais and give 100% of my focus and attention.
Thanks, Ryan. Now, we let Ryan do a little more of an introduction than others because he's here all alone. Everybody else, you just get to say who you are while you're in. So we're getting right to questions. Again, this is a different format with only one person. So I would say, please talk about yourself. Don't call out your opponent because they can't defend themselves. Not that you would, but just as a kind of a caveat. So, Mandy,
Start with me.
question for Ryan.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for being here.
Mandy. Sure, good seeing you.
As you, of course, know, District 6 is a small but mighty district encompassing the majority of Bahama Village homes and businesses, Duval Street from Southern to South Street, and the residential neighborhoods around Windsor Lane, Margaret, Packer, and Catherine Streets. With such diverse and often competing interests and priorities, what voices do you feel aren't being heard in this city, and how would you remedy that?
Well, part of the reason I appreciate that question, actually, because it contributes to why I entered the campaign. I believe across our district is very eclectic, and across our district there are a lot of different needs that need to be tended to. I personally have been in and out and lived in the district since I was 4 years old, right there on Southern Street, and my grandma too, and we've reached out and felt like the communication as far as our voices in the district were not being acknowledged the way they should be. And it's frankly something that I think is important, is responsiveness and presence in the district, and two qualities I bring to the table. Now, we could start on any perimeter and we could talk about important things to be addressed, whether it be Harris School, whether it be restoring greater honor to the cemetery, whether it be affordable housing, whether it be restoring more history and preservation and culture to areas that we may not have much longer of an opportunity to create such a thing, missed opportunities with community centers, and waffling on subjects that need to have decisive decisions made now more than ever. So it's a eclectic district, but that's actually something that I embrace, and as a person, I enjoy working on multiple different things at once, and I'm a good multitasker, so we'll get the job done.
Thanks, Ryan. Joe?
Feeding right off of that, some of the voices that you were talking about, you're going to be having to listen to are voices of people who don't have a place to live, who are making up the workforce in Key West. What can be done? We can't make any more land. There's no real easy solution to that, but how can we house people and give them a place to stay so they can run our businesses?
Joe, I appreciate you bringing that topic up into conversation because that strikes close to my heart. I'll tell you, after school, when I was focused on coming back and living in Key West, it was a major barrier to entry, is having workforce and affordable housing, and seeing all of my friends that I grew up with no longer living here because they can't afford it, and a lot of my friends currently who have left the island, some of my closest friends, and so it's something I'm very passionate about as far as solving that problem. We have a wonderful opportunity in District 6 to create affordable workforce housing. Since 2009, we've had plans from Burt Bender for what was 6 acres of land given to us by the Navy. And in that time, because of inaction in our district, 15 years Commissioner Lopez has been in office, we've lost 3 of those acres. So we have 3 acres left. The golden egg of this situation is it is government land, and that's how you create a formula for affordable housing at this point. You use government land with grants and funding, capital grants and funding from our government to actually create land or housing that's affordable. Somewhere in the $1,000 to $1,300 range is attainable. My team is very skilled, and we've worked and looked at this a lot. You can get through the bureaucracy and red tape as long as you're willing to be audited to keep those prices low, which we are. You can do affordable housing. We only have 3 acres left, though, and that's why I showed up in this race, is because I didn't want to lose those last 3 acres. I want the young people and our critical workers to have a place to live.
Thanks, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Richard?
Hey, Ryan.
Hey.
So your opponent has been in office continuously, I guess, for 15 years.
Correct.
What would you say is better or worse, because you've lived here your whole life, what would you say is either better or worse about the district in those 15 years? And what do you think are the best opportunities to pursue?
I would say better is, Commissioner Lopez is a very likable guy, and at his core, he has a really good heart. And if we could all be so lucky to have people like that in our lives. When it comes to worse, a lot of the things that I've kind of stood idly by and watched not have much progress on is kind of where we find ourselves in our district. And so we mentioned the affordable housing, right? But the Harris School, I mean, look at the citizens around Harris School and the terrific job just the citizens in the last 2 years have been doing with Harris School. You talk about, they've been the ones to unearth the zoning discrepancies that are helping now. They've been the ones to report the gray water dumpage from the Department of Environmental Protection. They're the ones reporting the expired tags on the abandoned cars, or the illegal tenants, or the illegal dumping. But then, once again, where do we go with that? Has it been followed up on? Have we said, okay, thank you for doing all this hard work. Now I got to put the burden on my shoulders to see this through by working with the city, which, of course, by running, I really want to be a part of to help with issues like this. What can we do to really see these issues through? So for the worst, once again, inaction or not following up on topics that are really important to our district that has so much upside and so much potential, if we could just have a dedication and a mindset to focus and get these things done.
Thanks, Ryan. Stephanie?
You've already mentioned a desire to build affordable housing in our area. However, given the chronic affordable housing crisis and the critical need for long-term workforce housing, are you for or against the extension of the transient rental license at Truman Annex when those licenses expire?
It's not in my district.
But you're going to vote on it.
I understand. Am I for or against the transient rental?
They end in 2025.
Right,
Okay.
right, exactly, 5 years from now. So would I speak on it without promising that I still could maybe think about it different down the road? No. What I will say is that I do believe in homeowners and property owners' rights. Once again, with Harris School is a great example. I'm not trying to go in and tell Peter Braun what to do with his property. It's his right to own his property. But I do believe enforcement of certain codes is critically important. So I would side right now with property owners when it came to the extension, and certainly I think more of that's going to come to light. As someone who lives in Old Town and experiences transient rentals, as far as people coming and going, they're very disruptive, and it's something that I certainly wouldn't enjoy, but, you know, I will show up and I will be with those citizens, making sure I know how to vote for them and my constituents. But that'll be, you know, in 6 years.
Thanks, Ryan. Mandy?
Go ahead, okay. Hey, Ryan, at last count, there was more than 35 shuttered storefronts on Duval Street, there's probably more by now, and dozens of commercial property listings for lease on the MLS. What can be done to stanch the bleeding and hasten Key West's economic recovery for the coming and specifically in the coming 2 to 4 years when it comes to our small businesses and our commercial corridor on Duval Street?
Yeah, you know, that's another reason I decided that it was critical to step into the race, because I'm a small business owner and I'm from a family of small business owners. And when the COVID crisis entered our lives, I one day locked my door and said, I don't know if I'm unlocking this thing again. And so first and foremost, I empathize with the people that have closed. But I'll also say that, you know, we're at a time when one of the things I wanted to see happen was we create a small business liaison to the government to really prop our small businesses back up. Mayor Johnson has created that, and it's now in the strategic plan. So number one, we've accomplished that. Mom and Pops, you know, Mark Ambuza and Paul Menta, two people that I respect greatly, have now formed a small business organization that I'm a part of, that is focused on bringing small businesses back, but in the way that's saying, hey, we have to adapt. Not all small businesses can survive all the time. And so as we've had small business closures at this point, I would look to the government to help streamline the reopening of small businesses by eliminating some of the cost prohibitive fees to zoning and to opening doors that really keep a lot of small businesses from being able to accomplish, even with a great model, the ability to start a new small business.
Joe?
Ryan, the cruise ship issue is something we're going to talk about later tonight, and there's been a lot said about that, and there will be a lot more said as we get closer to the time when we decide. Where do you come out on that? I mean, I see there's positives on each side and there's negatives on each side. There's a cost and there's something you have to give up. What do you think?
What I think is I'm the only candidate who signed all 3 petitions to get the referenda on the ballot. So my candidate, or my opponent, you know, has just recently come out in favor of this referenda as well, because it's now the popular thing to do. And what I'll say is, if these referenda pass, we're going to get a lot of pushback. And I'm on record. I'm not going to waffle on the cruise ships. I would like to see the cruise ship referendas, you know, toe the line and accomplish what the citizens decide. You know, this is the citizens' voice, and as an elected public official, my duty is to uphold what the citizens want to see happen. And that's not only by signing petitions, but where I'll stand if the referenda get pushed through. To finish what question you asked me, I'm an environmentalist. So when I think about, as a kid, the reefs and the water, and I look at now the difference, or I think about the strain on our infrastructure from 1 million to 1.5 million people on a small island, I really have concerns about that. And so I want to see maybe a reboot or a remix to Duval Street in certain ways. I don't think people come to Key West to visit a $5 t-shirt shop. So if we do see a reboot and remix and we're allowing to have some of our money circulate in Key West through mom and pops, maybe 5 or 6 times before leaving the island now, then that to me sounds like the philosophy of where my family comes from as small business owners.
Thanks, Ryan. Richard?
So, Brian, as a medical professional, chiropractor, and as a small business owner, how do you feel like your skill sets will translate to functioning highly on the city commission?
Well, my skill sets, I would like to believe, are why, as a newcomer who's running against a 15-year incumbent, I'm in a runoff right now. You know, my responsiveness, my dedication, you know, the word doctor to me, yes, may say that I've really understood what it takes to, you know, to learn deeply about a subject, but really what it's all about is dedication and commitment and service. You know, if anyone's ever been into my practice, they know that all I do all day is care for people, is serve people, is contribute to people's lives in a positive way, and try to build positive, constructive survival value choices for people. And so the transition into being a city commissioner, for me, is second nature as far as what I see as my value systems, as my belief systems. And I walk away from the office every day rewarded for the ability to contribute on that type of level. I'll tell you, if I walked off that dais twice a month and had that same opportunity, I'd be right where I believe I need to be.
Stephanie, this will probably be our last question, and then we'll give you a closing statement so we can keep on our timeline.
Ryan, you've spoken several times about supporting small businesses, moms and pops shops. In Bahama Village, particularly Petronia Street and Whitehead, we've had a lot of new restaurants be developed. You've mentioned reducing some fees to get them started, but that also has a serious impact on the neighbors that live in those neighborhoods. How are you going to represent neighbors like me who already have difficulty finding parking, who already deal with trash left all over our streets, and broken planters unattended by the city?
Beautification is very necessary. I think that's one of the most basic attention to detail items that could be accomplished. You know, when we talk about simple things like the stormwater drains, that before the hurricane, before the tropical storm, my office flooded just because our stormwater drain wasn't, you know, flowing properly. So I don't want to see Petronia become a mini Duval Street. You know, I do want to have that respect for the neighborhood in that area. So, because, you know, obviously that type of noise and disruption to long-term residents there is unfair. But at the same time, it needs to be addressed. I walk the district all the time. So if these are things that are left untended to, they will be tended to. You know, those are the things that are very actionable very quickly from my viewpoint as far as, you know, things that are important to take care of.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan. But before you do your closing statement, I should make a point. A friend of mine texted me that Commissioner Lopez there's a special budget meeting tonight, and we had a lot of back and forth, so that is where Commissioner Lopez is right now, and it's unfortunate the two events were scheduled together. We did a lot to try to accommodate that. You can never do these things perfectly. I apologize for missing that. It's my first mistake of many tonight. But I just wanted, there was an important point that I left out, so I wanted to make, in all due fairness to Commissioner Lopez. But with that said, your closing statement, about a minute, because we're right on time so far.
Thank you, Todd German, Hometown PAC, distinguished panelists, everyone here for holding an exchange of ideas. I'll say that, you know, when we talk about being on the record, once again, that's why I'm here, and that's why I always show up. But also, if all I have to compare right now is Commissioner Lopez's record as recently as a week ago, when the city manager requested that all commissioners submit goals and objectives for 2020, and he's the only commissioner that submitted no goals and objectives. These are really important issues. Commissioner Davila talking about drainage on Harris or Dennis Street, or Commissioner Kaufman talking about affordable housing, or Mayor Johnson talking about hardening the keys, and he's been in office for 15 years. He wants another 4, but he didn't even put a goal or objective down. I'm up here talking about all of these things that need to be tended to, and it was donut, zero, nothing. And that is and he's in a runoff for his seat. To me, that's inexcusable, and not to.
Okay, Ron.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your attention to my, my single-man debate here, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. Next up, if we get them to come up, Mike Forster and Jose Peixoto. While they're coming up, I want to do a huge shout-out to the studios at Key West where we are tonight. We had a couple of tiny technical difficulties last time, like it didn't work, but I think hopefully my phone has not been blowing up, so I got a feeling things are working this time. Hopefully on if you don't know, Comcast Channel 76, AT&T Channel 99, and I'd like to text me if you're watching from out of town on our website. So it's always interesting to see. I'll give you a shout out. So if I've wasted time, got these guys sit down. Introduce yourselves. Mike, you start.
Hi, I'm Mike Forster, running for County Commission District 5, 32-year resident of the Upper Keys, current mayor of Alameda. I've served 5 terms. Owner of Magna Mike's Cafe for 22 years and just opened another location at Bud Murray's Marina. Passion to serve, believe in community first, and then keep it short.
Okay. Jose.
I'm Jose Peixoto. I'm running for the County Commission District 5, live in Key Largo for 30 years, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Jose. Joe, you're starting us off this time.
Okay, I've heard a lot talked about, and I didn't have to hear it because I witnessed it, the problems with US 1, the road, not the radio station.
Clarification.
All the traffic, you can't turn left. I mean, it's a frustration for everybody. But it's always talked about, but I would like to know what each of you would suggest as possible remedies for the problems we're having, especially up where you are in the Upper Keys.
Jose, why don't you start?
Well, one of my proposals in the beginning of the campaign, it's definitely we should put the fee to come into the Keys, non-residents, $20 to $25. We're going to raise a lot of money for a lot of issues we need here, and for sure we're going to stop the traffic. Look at the days we have the traffic stop over there for the COVID-19. Key Largo is a heaven, is a paradise. I'm pretty sure you guys, you have the same problem. I think right there we start. And the wait station, right in the middle of the road, trucks have to go across. That wait station has to move out of there. They have to put somewhere else. So far, that's what I'm...
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to use all your time. You point it out, it really works well. Mike.
So this is an issue that's been going around for a long, long time, and it's not been fixed overnight. But I would propose that we implement, like we did in Alameda, we use a freebie in Key Largo. We reduce the carbon footprint. It's a benefit for that, and you park your car and you leave it there, so we have less traffic. And the other element too is affordable housing. Affordable housing can be put up in Key Largo, so hopefully we can retain the first responders, the civil servants, the necessary people that seem to live in Homestead and Florida City. We need to reduce the amount of traffic every morning and every afternoon. So those are things I'd like to do. Of course, I'd like to get rid of the fixed bridge. The opening bridge. It's the last one in Monroe County. I'd love to get rid of that, but it still has 30 years of life left. And so as long as that happens, it's not going anywhere. But that's definitely a problem. Alameda is a 2-lane highway. And then even when it opens up a little bit, it merges back into the 4 bridges that we have. So it's an ongoing problem. The day trippers are definitely a problem, but we are a tourist-based economy, and they're going to come. We can't stop them. I don't know how you stop them at the front, but I'm definitely in favor of a toll. Not quite that high of a toll, because I want to be inclusive, not exclusive, for people to come see us.
Thanks, Mike. Richard.
Jose, Mike. Welcome. Jose, you mentioned in your bio that you have an interest in holding the TDC a little bit more accountable for the money that they spend, and I think this question is valid for both of you. What would each of you like to see, how would you like to see the TDC become more accountable as far as their spending in terms of luring visitors to the Keys, and particularly from an Upper Keys standpoint?
Well, what I'm thinking about TDC, that They run a budget the same size of the sheriff department, $50 million, and those guys being appointed by the county commissioners, it is not accountable there. Then nobody else being checked what they do with that money. I see $1,000 for the band here, $10,000, but there's a $50 million. I think that TDC should be changed the way, they should be voting like us. People should be choose whoever going to run a $50 million budget. It's not $50,000. And I look at the budget, it's a big, and it's a very difficult for to understand how that $50 million is being dispersed. And I think we need, for the housing, most of the affordable housing we needed is for the people working the hotels. It's where the TDC got the $50 million. How much money TDC put in the housing?
Same question, Mike?
Let me answer that too?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So, I'm a business owner. I do believe in the TDC. I think we have to get rid of the misnomer that the TDC costs the taxpayers money here, but they don't cost the taxpayers money because it's generated by bed tax. So let's make that clear. That's not coming out of your trim notice when it comes to your house. Do I think it could be used for more bricks and mortar? Absolutely, I do. But it's up to the DACs to make sure that they ask for that funding. A lot of money goes to the county. The county, it's up to us, if elected, to use it wisely, and it's up to the voters to make sure that we do that. And so I'm not for disbanding it. I'm not for trying to track more. I mean, I'm happy with what I have. I said 3 years ago that we're built out already, so I don't need more, but I'd like to retain something, especially in these times. I need to get back to where I can pay my bills and not just pay my federal debt. Thank you.
Quick reminder for all candidates, you're polite when you talk to us, but talk to the camera, because those are the people that matter. It's really hard to not look at someone you're talking to.
Yeah, Richard.
We're saying this to all of you, so. Stephanie?
In Monroe County, a family of 4 is considered an Alice household, which means employed, yet not able to afford their basic living expenses if their income is at $84,432, which is 37% of our population. And $115,800 is considered needed to be stable. How can you create jobs that actually pay these rates in Monroe County?
For both candidates, then Mike, you go first.
Sure. So, as you know, I'm on the board of United Way, with somebody else around here, and the Alice report it sickens me to read that, to know that so many people are under the poverty line, including our civil servants, which is really ridiculous, and that's why they can't afford to live here, and that's why they live in the mainland. But I do believe that you can't just have affordable housing if you don't pay an affordable wage, and that's why I feel like I have retainment, because I pay that money, and I pass it on to the consumer. And the business model works, but I know with the 501c3s, I'm sorry, I'm looking over there again, the 501c3s are having a hard time raising money with the COVID, because everybody's got their hand out for money. But we really need to, even in the Zoom meetings, in the telethons and everything that's going on, you need to contribute if you can, because that problem's not going away. The people are still in need.
Jose?
I work for a living in Key Largo. I've lived in there for 30 years. Me and my wife, she's a teacher in the school, and I'm a maintenance guy. We don't make at $80,000 a year, and we still make a living. We're still able to pay our housing. What I'm thinking is we cannot give people retirement. We have to create a situation for them. We have a lot of affordable housing, especially in Key Largo. $3,000 a month? That's not affordable. We have some affordable housing in Key Largo, nobody else checking them, but 50% of the people in those affordable houses are Miami. They live in Miami. They just come in Key Largo on the weekends, use those places for the weekends. Right there, we can solve a lot of the problems with the low-income people and the low-income families.
Thanks, Jose. Mandy?
This would, I think, be for both of them. What part of the county's emergency response pay policy would you rewrite?
Jose, you start this.
I think we've been doing very well with this pandemic thing. I think the county did the best they can because this is something else unique. And I don't think we have to change much the county. I think we should let the departments, and each one do their own jobs and just help them whatever they need. Because I think the county, the commissioners did a great job. They are not specialists in the problems we have. They do it the best they can.
Mike?
Can you say that again? Are you referring to the 2.5 times or 1.5 times?
Exactly, to the one that kicked in as a result at the beginning of the pandemic that cost the county 1.2 or 5 million, and then the tropical storm Laura amount for $52,000 for the employee overtime / emergency response pay policy. Yeah.
Right.
Mike,
So-
before you answer, I'm going to let Jose
Okay.
have a little time, because
I'm sorry, I didn't understand very 100% what you did.
Okay,
We have that problem before with the hurricane and everything
Right.
else. That's one of the problems. When I call, a lot of people look at me and say, why you say the county have a lot of corruption? Why that is one problem? And they are there to watching for our money, and I don't think they're doing very well. They just give them away because they're not their money, it's our money. And if I'm there, if you vote for me and put me over there, I'm pretty sure this is not going to happen. Because everything else going to come up to the table to be voted, to be decisions made. I want the citizens to find out first and communicate with me by the mail, email, phone, and tell me what you want to be done. And I'm going to be there doing what the citizens wants to be done, not what me and the other four decide to do it. Their money they working on is not their money, it's our money, it's the taxpayers' money.
Thanks, Jose. Mike?
Okay, thank you. So, I don't believe that this was done in the back room, and I don't believe that there's collusion, and I don't believe that necessarily that, they were bad people for doing this. I think the policy's wrong, and I'd like to bring it back up, and I'd like to change it. I don't believe in it. That's just my opinion. But until I sit in that seat, it's easy for me to judge, and I don't want to sit here and be the judge, but I can tell you that no other municipality, and we're not as linear, I get it, but not another municipality in Monroe County pays time and a half for any emergencies. Not this one, not for COVID, and not for the hurricane, so.
Politicians are arguing
I
against
know.
themselves right here. It's
I
kind of
have a
fun.
lot of respect. I have a lot of respect. There you go.
Okay.
I-
One quick little thing, Kelly, I'm getting some texts that they hear the panelists and me okay, but that the candidates are a little fuzzy, so she's working on it. So just letting you know, we do try to take your feedback. That puts us to Joe again. Joe, please.
Thank you. Florida Keys Mosquito Control has been granted approval, and they voted to move ahead with releasing the genetically modified mosquitoes to fight off the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which Bill Becker taught me to say. I slaughtered that first few times to control dengue. But there's been some real loud voices coming out opposing that. Where do you stand? What do you say to those people? And do you support the release?
That's a Mike start.
Okay. So, again, this is Groundhog Day, the movie. It didn't happen just this year. It's happened years ago. It's been ongoing. Do I support it? I really don't support it, but I don't base that on science. I just base it on my personal opinion that I don't want to introduce something foreign into our air and our land and our people and our bodies. That's just my opinion, but I'm not a doctor. So if the doctors say it's the best thing for us, then we go with best science, right? And not just personal opinions. So it's the will of the people, it's the best science, and that's the way I go with it. It's a hard call, and that's why they were voted in, and that's why they have elections.
Thanks, Mike. Jose?
I'm from Brazil. I arrived here 35 years ago, but still go back and forward over there. We have that dengue problem over there for many, many years, and those modified things that were done over there 15 years ago, we have no problem. Now, we have to understand, the United States of America, we have the best engineers, chemicals, you name it. All these people work for the mosquito department. They are very, very high-end professionals, and I'm pretty sure they'll not release anything else over there, we're gonna hurt ourselves, because most of them live here in the same neighborhood. I'm in favor, 100%. Anything else they can do to stop the dengue fever, my friends, if you never have that one, you have no idea what that is, and I had it before.
Thanks, Jose. As a little aside, it's interesting for people outside the Keys that two of our major issues right now are cruise ships and mosquitoes, and people are at each other's throats about both. So, where are we? Richard?
Gentlemen, so our environment is a very important topic in the Keys, obviously. Just north of your district is the Turkey Point nuclear power plant. The salinity levels are very high. The saltwater plume is raging. What would you do as a county commissioner to really address that issue with Turkey Point and even with Miami-Dade County?
Jose, you start this one.
That's something else that Monroe County Commission cannot do much besides talking to the authorities in Tallahassee and Washington and try to have them to do it because it's not our job. But let me tell you, anything else happen to Turkey Point, we have one of the most expensive neighborhood in Key Largo is Ocean Reef. Nobody else more than that people been watched that, and I'm pretty sure they've been worked very hard to get that situation fixed because they have their multi-million-dollar houses with that Turkey Point plant right in their backyard. I'm believing that people more than anybody else because they have all the money in the world, they have all the connections in the world, and I'm pretty sure they know what's going on over there, and I'm pretty sure they're working on to have that problem solved.
Thanks, Jose. Mike, Turkey Point.
So FP&L has been a problem for a while again. These are just ongoing problems that just keep festering for years and years and years. And there's no silver bullet, but I agree with what the county's doing. I mean, they're fighting it, and I know they're fighting it with the fishermen, and I would continue that fight. I don't know how far you get with a utility that size. I can tell you that FP&L is probably one of the best utility companies in the world. But they're lacking in how they cool down their nuclear waste, and I'm really afraid what happens to our potable water if things turn south. But I do agree that we keep the pressure on. We keep the pressure on our House rep. We keep the pressure on our Congress, our representative, and keep making sure that they do the right thing and stop giving them extensions to fix their problems because it could turn out really bad for us really quickly.
Thanks, Mike. Stephanie.
How well do you believe the county's HSAB process works, and would you make any changes to it?
Would you explain for the audience what HSAB
Sure.
is?
Human Services Advisory Board, which is the county funding that is distributed out to help nonprofits continue our work throughout the county.
So I think Mike start and then Jose.
So honestly, I don't know the distribution. I'm just going to be honest with you, I don't, and that's something that I will take a look at. I know that in years past, even our council gave a lot of money out to 501c3s, and we stopped that practice because we try to keep our millage down. I believe that it's going to take a public-private partnership to really fund the 501c3s because not only for the COVID that's been going on, as I brought up in the last forum, but the mental health issues that are going to start now. And rear their ugly heads, and then that's when you see they'll be in the children's shelters and the domestic abuse shelters and the homeless shelters, and if we can't stop it now with the 501c3s with our help, and the county can help, we need to do that now.
Thanks, Mike. Jose.
Same thing else, I don't know much about it, and I'm pretty sure I have to educate myself on, but I don't believe in we create more government. I believe in let the private sector to help us in the situations like that, because more government we create, more options for corruptions and mismanage the people's money. I want the government out of the way much we can.
Thanks, Jose. Thanks, Jose. Mandy.
You gentlemen have both expressed support for a toll on US 1 entering the Keys, but how, if that eventually comes to pass, how should its revenues be spent to ensure an equitable benefit for the entire island chain? How would you prioritize spending of the toll revenues?
I think first of all, to clean up after the tourists coming on the weekends and trash our beaches, our coral reefs, or our ocean shores. I think big part of that money should be goes for that park and environment, clean up and protect our coral reefs. And then we decide, this is something else, just the idea. When we sit down at the table, and then we're going to decide where we're going to use the money, depending how much you're going to come in. We can use for a bunch of different stuff, but most of them I think should be used to clean after the tourists, because they are the ones going to bring the money, and we have to clean up after them and make our roads better.
Okay.
You know, make them looks much better than what it is right now. And for example, the bridge needs to be redoing. It's 30 years from now, but if we have enough money, we can say, hey, we're going to redo the bridge now.
Thank you.
Okay, so the reality is, FDOT's going to say, we want the money. That's the reality. And so we have to get around that somehow, and we have to get to the governor. And in order to do that, we have to throw some carrots at the governor and say, look, this is a funding source you never had before. Let's make FDOT the 50% partner, and the other 50% goes to Monroe County, and we split it up equally, right? But we have to have a common plan, and it can only go for certain things. So if you throw that carrot at them, like, look, we got takings cases in 2023, we got sea level rise we need to address that everybody's going to be taxed for. If we can use the money for that, then that's what we would go for. But if you say you're going to use it for tourists or whatever else, then it's not going to be a sell with the capital. We're not going to get anywhere. We have to make it where it's an appetite for the governor to say, you know what, that's not a bad idea, because now I don't have to give you any money for that. Now you can help yourselves, and that's what we need to do. To give us a funding source, let us bond it. We'll get some money generated, and I think the locals will be free. They'll have a transponder, and then our workers will be free. But we charge the tourists for the impacts that we're going to be end up paying for.
Thank you.
Sounds good. I think to stay on schedule, we're going to have that be the last of the questions. Let's do closing statements. Start with, since Mike started, we'll start with Jose, and Mike will finish up. And you can get a heavy minute here. So, get a little time.
The panel gave us excellent questions, but I believe they leave two very important questions to my opponent. I believe this is a community with very family-bound ideas, and my opponent, the field, during the campaign, during the primary, was accused of two very ugly situations, and nobody else asked him about it. And I think when we elect officials, to be around us, to be around our families, our wives, our daughters, our mothers, I think we should have somebody else with a very good moral reputation behind them. And I think my opponent should be answered to all the voters think about vote for him if the sexual harassment case against him is false or true. And we are about to vote for somebody else to manage a $500 million budget. My opponent being accused to mismanage a very small budget in Isla Morada, where he's a mayor right now. I think it should be answered to you before you give him the $500 million to manage it. I'm not going to ask him those questions because I'm not going to vote for him. I'm going to vote for Jose Peixoto, a candidate who's going to fight for the citizens, for the people of Monroe County. And the guy, I'm pretty sure you can leave your lovely females around him with no fear at all. Thank you very much. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Jose. And you may not be going to ask him, but I bet he's going to respond. So,
No.
Mike, you
Well, thank
have
you,
time.
but no, I didn't engage the first go-around or the second go-around or the mailers, and I'm not going to engage now. I wouldn't be a 5-time elected if all these things were true. I wouldn't be the mayor of Isla Morada. I wouldn't be on the boards of 501c3s. I wouldn't have been endorsed by the Clean Water, the PBA, Teamsters, Professional Firefighters of Monroe County, Ocean Reef Political PAC, Upper Keys Charter Boat Association. So you can say what you want. I got skin of leather. I've been through it. You can't smear me any more than I've been smeared. I'm ready to rock and roll. I got a passion to serve, and I look forward to being your candidate. Mike Forster, County Commission, District 5.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
And there's normally lots of applause.
Yeah, right.
So, if we could, Heather and Eddie, come on up. While we're doing this, a couple things. I want to say hi to Chris up in New York. He's watching online, seems to be working well. And Kelly, whatever you did is fantastic, everybody says. So she's taking a big bow and everything. So, but keep that feedback coming because obviously it works, because Kelly did some kind of magic. And also up here is, he's not featured in this forum, but Clinton Barris from Two Oceans Digital is our cameraman right now and doing a great job. So thanks, Two Oceans Digital. They've been with us, I think, forever, 15 years, something like that. So, again, I've wasted the little time while these guys are primping. So why don't we have the introductions? Heather, you can start on the far corner.
Sure. My name's Heather Carruthers. I'm the current County Commissioner for District 3. I'm running one more time to provide proven leadership, knowledge, experience, and continuity, especially as we face challenges, some old and some new, that are before us for the next 4 years. like sea level rise, continued issues with housing, and economic recovery
Thanks,
after
Heather.
COVID-19.
Thanks, Heather. Just introduction.
Oh,
We'll
well,
get to that.
you know, everybody else had a minute.
No, they did. Eddie,
Trying to
quick
squeeze it
introduction.
in.
How you doing, everybody? My name's Eddie Martinez. I'm a candidate for District 3, Monroe County Commission.
Thanks, Eddie, for following the rules.
You changed the rules, Todd.
It's my job. This forum, Heather, you have no idea what the last couple of weeks have been like. Richard, get us back on track.
Well,
First question.
Let's talk about the gorilla in the 200-pound gorilla in the room. Eddie, we reported in the Key West Citizen recently, as in the last couple days, that you have had some lawsuits filed against you.
There's two of them.
And that there is some question regarding whether your suitability for county commissioner in light of those situations is warranted. So how would you respond to
It's real simple. I mean, it's the one that's the contractual dispute is something that'll get solved in the courts. I mean, that's what it's for. And to relate it as to commission, it's real simple. If a vendor sells me a grinder pump that's supposed to produce 10,000 PSI and get a bunch of waste out, and when we install it, it does 5,000, I'm going to have a contractual dispute with them. And I don't think that I should pay, or that we should pay, and throw away our money on something that is not performing the way that it was agreed to. And that's what we have here. We have a contractual dispute between two professionals over what was sold and what was warranted as sold. And that'll get resolved in the courts. It's real simple. Been a businessman for over 30 years. I'm the youngest professional ever to sit the board. I know what I'm doing.
Thank you, Eddie. Stephanie.
Since Eddie just had a question, Heather, sitting commissioner, what's been your biggest, greatest accomplishment within the county, and what has been your greatest regret or one thing you'd like to redo?
Well, I think I've had a lot of accomplishments in the county. I don't know how many people remember what was going on in the county many years ago before I came on the commission, but I think we're a much more transparent, much more responsible and flexible organization than we were then. I am pleased with the way I've been able to champion the rejuvenation of Higgs Beach. We've made some significant improvements in terms of starting to deal with issues related to sea level rise, which now we need to fund. If I have a regret, it's probably Goal 109, the famous Goal 109, which was an attempt to streamline the process for permitting and building workforce housing, not affordable housing, and it's an important distinction. I wish I had more support from the commission for that, because as you know, for the last 30, 40 years, having affordable workforce housing has been a problem in our community, and it's going to continue to be when we have limited space and a lot of people who want to be here, and we also have government restrictions that are going to prevent continued expansion. So that would be my biggest disappointment. I got a lot more accomplishments, though, and I'm happy to spend more time on that, but you can learn more on my website.
Thanks, Heather. Mandy.
For both candidates, Monroe County provides generous health insurance packages for its county employees and their dependents, while many private sector workers here in the county remain uninsured or can only afford policies with annual deductibles of $7,000 or higher, ensuring really that none of their unexpected medical needs other than the most catastrophic will actually be covered in a given year. What sort of public-private partnerships could you envision to get more working residents of the Keys affordably insured?
Start with Heather.
Sure. Well, the first thing is that I think people should know is that we made some significant changes in our benefits packages as I've been on the commission. We don't offer just free health insurance for everyone and their family. I mean, I pay for my spouse and my children separately. We also significantly reduce the amount of health insurance benefits that we provide for retirees, especially once they reach Social Security age. So it's not quite as generous. It's quite a bit less generous than it was when I first came to the commission. You know, for the longest time, we have talked about having one county-wide public service and even private entity health insurance plan. And I know that our county administrator had spoken with the the school districts and some of the municipalities about trying to proceed with something like that. And we could certainly incorporate a lot of the hospitality workers as well. The problem that we continue to come up against is that each package is a little bit different, and the benefits offered are a little bit different, and no one seems to want to give. But I would 100% support us going back to the table with all the entities, both private and public, in this community to achieve that.
Thank you.
Same for Eddie?
Yeah.
Eddie, your thoughts?
Same for Ed. Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to address also what she said. She's been here for 12 years. Nothing's really happened with sea level rise. You need someone who actually knows it, someone who's a professional, like me, who can actually do something about it. For the roads, you need somebody who actually knows the right-of-ways.
But we were going back to the health insurance.
I'm
Okay.
just answering something that I'm the expert in and that everybody should know. As for healthcare, I think I'm an expert in that too. Everybody knows my recent healthcare issues. I've been septic 3 times, crashed on the table at Mariners. I think we should leave that up to the experts. I think we should partner with maybe the Baptist healthcare system and find out what it is, the experts, the doctors, the RNs, the advanced nurse practitioners, what they think is something that can be put together for the community as a package with the county, with the cities, to see how we can get something brought in for everybody. Ideas are just floated around and nothing ever gets done. So I could say, I'm going to give everybody free health care, but if it doesn't get done, then nobody's done anything. We need to go to the experts, which are the healthcare professionals, like the doctor that saved my life. Those guys there at Baptist, they're fantastic. They know what they're doing. I said we lean on the people who actually have the expertise and ask them for a solution. I'm sure that they will work with us and help us because that's what they do every day. Doctors get paid well, but they're in the business of saving lives and making people healthy. And I think that's what we should do. We should lean on them for that answer.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thanks.
Joe?
We talked a few moments ago about the possibility of a toll on US 1. To me, as being kind of an outsider, only being down here for 4 or 5 years now, it just seems like, and maybe this is being naive, it seems like that's the very best option to answer the huge questions we have before us. How are we going to pay for these monstrous things that we have to do in the Keys over the next group of years? And I mean, the way I look at it is, if you go to Disney World, you pay to get in. Why shouldn't you pay to get into paradise? Plus the fact that by the time you get to the Keys, you're used to paying tolls coming through Miami-Dade. So, Heather, you said before when you resurrected this idea that you knew it was going to be like moving a mountain. So what way could you, and Eddie, I'd like for you to address this as well, how can you push that through? How could we make that happen, get somebody's attention, and get this thing fixed?
Sure, well,
hang on, I was going to have Eddie start first, but it's just, this is partly why we have you here, Joe, because it just seems so easy from outside, doesn't it? I think you're going to hear why maybe it's not quite so easy. Eddie, you start, then Heather.
I think that actually has a simple answer. Years ago, I found, because I'm also, besides being a professional surveyor, I'm also a real estate paralegal. I got my specialty at the University of Miami. I'm an expert witness here in the 16th, and I've done many court cases when it comes to boundary law and specific real estate questions. US 1 is a road that can return to the county. There's already been set precedents. I've already talked about it before. You can set a toll in many different places on US 1. You do not have to deal with FDOT, contrary to popular belief. There are places on the other sides of that right-of-way that actually belong to the county. I give up a $5 million FDOT contract to represent a private citizen where we actually won and beat the county and FDOT for them to get their right-of-way back. You can do the wireless transmitters like everybody's used to driving through, and in fact, you could put a toll pretty much to equal every district. And every district here can get about 20 bucks maybe. It sounds expensive, but like you said, you get used to driving through it. And you do it in Miami-Dade County, you'll do it here. And that's an equal distribution. We've got about 74,000 cars that come through Key Largo every day. Figure that toll. Figure how much money you can come in, and you don't have to share it with the state. We can take back the road, maintain the road, and to do that, you need somebody who needs to know roads. Monroe County, unfortunately, hasn't had a surveyor at the helm since 1956. We're the only county in the state to do it, and that's why we're in the problems that we're in. Nobody knows where the hell anything is, and that's what you need somebody like me for. You need a real professional to assist the county.
Thanks, Eddie. Heather, tell us about tolls.
Sure. Well, first, US 1 is actually a federal highway that is maintained and managed by FDOT. If the county were to take over the management of FDOT, I think that we would all be dropping our jaws at the cost of doing that. It's in FDOT's plans, for instance, to replace the 7-mile bridge within about the next 10 years. That's $500 million alone. We have 46 bridges that are connecting us from here to the mainland. There's no way even a toll will address that. And that doesn't even begin to count the cost that we're going to have to incur for sea level rise mitigation. As you probably may know, right now the toll is opposed by FDOT. I've been on the phone with the District 6 Commissioner. We know that we have to go above his pay grade, frankly, if we're going to get any traction here. But we also have to go to the federal government, because there is a statute within the federal government that prevents single federal roads from being tolled unless there's an exception. So that literally will take an act of Congress. So between that and working with FDOT, we can do it. Certainly the technology is there for us to be able to do a toll now in a much simpler way than in the past with, sun passes, et cetera. Believe me, I have been to DC, to the U.S. Department of Transportation about 10 years ago, working on this. I know what all of what the problems are. What happened then was that I didn't have the support of the entire commission. I believe we probably have it now, and we also have it from the municipalities. So I'm hopeful that we'll find this as a good source of revenue for us going forward.
Thanks, Heather. Richard.
Well, I'm torn between two questions, so I'm going to go with the one I think is fair for both of you to answer.
Go for blood.
So, no. So it's clear tourism is probably going to be slow, if not come back altogether to the Keys. There are a lot of things on the docket, including the cruise ship referendum. What if tourism does not come back to the levels that we've enjoyed over the last decade or so? What ideas do you have to shore up some of the revenue shortfalls that the county is clearly going to be facing?
Heather, why don't you start?
Sure. I think tourism is going to change in the Keys. I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to change. And certainly what we see in the real estate market is an increase in second homes. Only 21% of our entire ad valorem collections are from homesteaded properties in the Keys. 60% are second homes. So I think that that's going to change the tenor of our communities. But I also think that we need to start to investigate diversifying our economies in some ways. You may know I reached out to Google several years ago through our IT department when they were trying to find communities where they could provide fiber optic broadband throughout a community. I think that that's something that we need to be looking at, because clearly if we've learned nothing else from coronavirus, it's that we can all work from home and still talk to each other. And if you have your choice, wouldn't you rather work here than someplace where you have to shovel the driveway to go to the grocery store? So I think that we need to look at that. Many years ago, when we were doing our comprehensive plan, I actually was a strong advocate for including an economic development chapter in our comp plan, but again, I didn't have the support of all of the commission to do that. But I think that that's what we need to start doing. We need to start looking at ways to diversify the economy and understand that the nature of our tourism economy is going to change, and maybe for the better.
Thank you, Heather. Eddie, tourism.
Tourism. You want your budget? Simple as I said on the last question. 74,000 cars per day, $20 per day. She said 7-mile bridge is $500 million. You get 543. 543 million. You got $43 million extra. That's in 1 year. The money's there. It can be made. And as far as working from home, not everybody can work from home. There's people who have to work out. We have to do something to allow the employees to work. The people who work in the bars, what you can do, you serve a beer from your house virtually. You can't do that. And the virus really does not distinct from a beer or a steak. So there's got to be some common sense reform put into everything here. There's plenty of money, and the tourists, they'll come back. They always will. This is paradise, which is why they will pay the toll, which is why we will generate the money, which is why we can maintain the road, and the exception is there for US 1, because US 1 was created out of an act of Congress, and it got taken over after the Labor Day storm. The road was never supposed to be a road, it was a railroad, and it was built by a private guy, not by the government. A lot of times you don't need the government for everything. It was done by Henry Flagler, a private businessman. So there's plenty of money and things can be done. You don't need the government in everything to get everything done.
Thank you, Eddie. Stephanie?
Monroe County is a long and unique county when it comes to distance, but small county when it comes to population. The result means we often get less when it comes to tax-funded projects and programs, as we just saw with the CARES Act. How would you make our voice heard and our needs met when we are fighting literally against the rest of the country to get dollars sometimes?
Eddie, start.
Well, that would be up in Washington, D.C. We'd have to have support from our congressmen, support from our state. And yeah, but we are an area of critical concern. We are a very special area. I mean, we are paradise, everybody. This is really it. And we need to petition the Fed that when they are distributing federal dollars, to put them down here. I mean, there are things that, insurance rates that need to go down. We can get grants for that because our building code, and there, I gotta say, Monroe County, we did our homework. Our building code is the best that there is. I mean, there's plenty of money to be allocated there. We are at times the example for the nation, you know, and we should take that example and tell them, you want to keep it, we need our federal funds. We need our fair share of federal funds. And I just think that comes with working with not just the county. The county is, the business of the county is running the county. Getting the federal funds, that's where we have to have state and Washington, D.C. on our side.
Thanks, Eddie. Heather?
This is a problem, and in more ways than just getting our share of funds. As you probably know, whenever we talk about housing, we talk about workforce housing versus affordable housing. You know, when projects are funded partially with federal tax dollars through LIHTC financing, they have to abide by certain federal rules, and that means that you can't specify that somebody lives in the place, so we can't make it workforce housing. It also means that they judge and they set the rates based on what the median income of a community is. And our median income, because we have some extremely wealthy people, is high. That's why your Alice number is at $84,000. So I think that there's a couple of things that we do. You know, the county has, in the past several years, put together a very robust lobbying program. We have good relationships with people in DC as well as Tallahassee. We continue to remind Tallahassee that we give them more money than we get, and so we've had some success there. You may remember that after Hurricane Irma, we cleaned up our canals with a $46 million federal grant because of work that we did in DC. Didn't cost the taxpayers a penny. We came in actually under budget and ahead of schedule. So it has to be continued advocacy, continued reminding people of how special we are. And speaking of that, reminded me that our coral reefs are another very special resource that we have, and also an opportunity for expanded and new economic development.
Thanks, Heather. Mandy?
Although both of you live in and will represent one specific district, District 3, you are elected by all voters in Monroe County. So based on your knowledge of the entire Keys, what would you say is the most pressing issue facing, say, Upper Keys residents for both of you?
Heather?
Well, I think that there's a couple of problems facing Upper Keys residents. Certainly, traffic is huge. And, you know, it's because people can't afford to live in the Keys and work here too. So much of the employees in the Upper Keys travel down the 18-mile stretch. That's one huge problem in the Upper Keys. The other is that we have areas in the Upper Keys that are really facing issues related to sea level rise and sunny day flooding that we have got to find a way to finance. You know, we have some projects that we know we can do as soon as we can come up with about $14 million. Unfortunately, we had a little blip this year called COVID-19 that's really taken a chunk out of our budget, including our capital funding. So I think that those are two of the main things: traffic and flooding.
Thank you.
Eddie, same question.
Well, as a guy who lived in the Upper Keys for about a decade, I can tell you that the Upper Keys really, with only the exception of a couple of subdivisions, really does not flood. It actually sheds water. What she's talking about is Still Right Point. That's one of the subdivisions that has a problem. Actually lived right there. And the problem with Still Right Point is that when it was allowed and permitted, it was built way too low. And the county's proposal as to that right now, I mean, they're basically going to make a big-ass bathtub, and it's just going to be a problem. It's going to be another ongoing problem because you have people who don't know what they're doing leading the way. I mean, it's just, you need to have the design professionals really do it, and not by a consultation, not because they're just going to recommend the most expensive thing and take your tax dollar and run, because the person looking at it, approving it, doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't know what they're looking at. You know, so Upper Keys problem is traffic. How do you solve that? That toll will bring in a lot of money, and it'll discourage the ones that are going to come in and litter and make Isla Morada basically defend itself like it's had, creating construction projects along the fills so that they don't get trashed every day, every weekend. So Upper Keys, it's basically traffic and retaining some of the tourism that comes through. That's what they got to do. And as for affordable housing and stuff like that, maybe we can go to our banks and get around the federal exception and use their funding and have it come from them. There's ways to do it. If you don't think outside the box, we're going to be stuck in it, and then eventually when they build a bathtub, we're going to drown in it. So we need thinking that is unconventional and that is actually has professional know-how.
Thanks, Eddie. Okay, last question, Joe.
It's been budget week, or last couple of weeks have been budget time, and I've heard the word difficult used many times by everybody in the county and all the municipalities as well. There's a long list of things we want to do, we feel like we have to do. There's a lot of things that we provide now, the county and the cities. If it came down to it, what would you be prepared to cut in order to make ends meet, and what items would you fight to hold on to?
Eddie, what are you going to cut?
Well, actually, with my proposal as to the tolls on US 1, we got about $500 million additional coming in. I don't think if the budget is done right, we really need to cut anything. We need to watch out for 2023 and the permits that are coming through, because, you know, there's a lot of vacant land out there, and the county's going to get the crap suit out of it because of these building permits that, you know, aren't allowed to be built. That needs to be addressed. And it's not just going to be with the land authority snatching up parcels of land. You know, that's something that worries me in the future. I don't really think there's much that needs to be cut. There's a lot of income that can come in. There's a lot of fat that can be trimmed off the budget, and, you know, we could still take care of our people, build affordable housing and workforce housing along with the developers. We need to work with the developers that are doing these bigger projects and have them implement that the right way and the real way. You know, that 35-foot ceiling is something that we've been slowly getting away from. We need to just get away from it. As flood zones rise, we need to address our building codes. And if the Navy can have a 6-story building, maybe we need to do that when it comes to affordable housing and workforce housing. Now, I'm not saying build Trump Tower out here, you know, 100-story building, but if we want to keep and retain people and have them be here and have that building be, you know, cheap to build, you got to go high. And maybe we can do it by the first couple floors being parking. That gets the residences up off the floor. We don't have to worry about flooding when it comes to the units, and the cars will be in a garage. Once they're up out of 8 feet, 12 feet, they're usually out of the flooding range.
Thanks, Mike. Heather, what are your thoughts on the budget?
Well, yeah, it was a difficult year. We have about 42 vacancies within the county government that are not going to be filled. And we've had to postpone a couple of things and move things around. Our budget actually this year is 2.6% less than it was last year. It would be, frankly, I think a little bit in a better shape. I know that the sheriff had some expenses that we had to cover this year, was part of it. And, you know, for the first time, Trauma Star has not been quite as profitable as usual, and it's frankly because we didn't have tourists, and the visitors are the ones that really foot the bill for our Trauma Star expense. I said during the budget process that, you know, there might be some other projects that we need to postpone, but everything that we do for the benefit of the residents. And, you know, we are at a point right now where we're comfortable with this budget. It means about another $19 annually for a homeowner for every $389,000 worth of property value. So it's a small price to pay, I think, to retain the kind of service that we give. But I have to say that there's I just have to address a couple of issues from my opponent. The first is he may not know that there is a statute in both federal and in state law that would prohibit us from really using any toll revenue from anything more than what is directly related to transportation or a half a mile off that road. So we have to worry about that. We run out of road goal permits in 2026, and we're already away from the 35-foot limit. We did away with that a couple of years ago, so, just to...
She actually called you out a little bit. Do you
Yeah.
want to respond?
Yeah,
30
I will,
seconds, 30
because
seconds to respond.
The same budget that she has is the one that I have, and from what I see, that I was provided with, it actually went up. The budget's gone up every year since fiscal year 17, which is when the rollback was. So that's not true. As to, yeah, we did get away from the 35. I did say that we've been getting away from it, and we need to keep getting away from it. That was ridiculous, and that happened during your tenure. During your 12 years, that 35 thing was around, and it was a great idea. It wasn't. It was a dumb idea, and it's put us into a predicament where we're at. And as for US 1, that was created, again, after a storm, a hurricane. They never took it over. I've had legal cases over that.
Thanks,
So,
Mike. Well,
sorry,
I
that's
mean,
also wrong.
Eddie, you're going to, see, it's just getting good, and then we got to end.
Yeah,
But-
yeah, really.
Eddie, we're going to wrap it up a minute each closing statement. Eddie, you're first. Heather, you get the last word.
Sure.
Well, I encourage you all to vote for me. I am a professional. I know what I'm talking about. As to US 1, I'm going to address it one more time because I'm the only one that I know here that's been an expert in court that's actually testified about the US 1 right-of-way, where it came from, where it was born, and how it got to where it was. And those 1957 corridor maps, which is what they're talking about, which gives the federal or the state control, they've been proven incorrect in court already. And we need to have something that, when we design, we need to design for the future, plan for the future, not for now. This sea level rise thing, whether you're blue or red, it doesn't matter. The water rises. The water's been rising over the last 120 years, about 1.2 inches. That's been measured off the Cow Key Monument by NOAA for over 100 years. And we know that's factual. So no one needs to run and, Chicken Little's head isn't going to be cut off, but we need to plan for the future. And to plan for the future, you need somebody who can think about the future, who's got a mind for the future. As a professional surveyor, someone who's an expert in the law, someone who's a merchant marine captain, someone who's a commercial dive instructor and a technical dive instructor. I know all aspects of these keys. The water, the roads, the land, the everything. Vote for someone who will really take you into the 21st century.
Thank you, Eddie. Heather, 1 minute.
That's all?
Yes.
I first ran for county commission to bring transparency, accountability, and fiscal responsibility to the BOCC, and I think I've delivered. We now have an accessible website, we have a public information office, we have a clearer budget process, we do annual State of the County reports. I've made tough decisions and taken responsibility for county actions, even when admitting missteps has been uncomfortable, and I've supported developing a professional, qualified workforce. I've helped keep the millage rates low. The millage rates have not increased at the same rate as property values since I've been on the commission. I have been an engaged member of this county and of this district for over 20 years. As a former employer, hotelier, as a parent, as a self-employed professional, a grassroots organizer through firm, and as your county commissioner, I have honed the skills and developed the relationships needed to address the challenges that we're going to face in the future. I have served with integrity, and I have earned the support of my colleagues at all levels and on both sides of the aisle. I know these keys, I'm committed to serving them. Please visit my website, carruthersforcommission.com, and give me your vote this November. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.
Next up, Craig Cates and Annalise Mannix, County Commission District 1. While they're coming up, we want to thank our goddess Kelly in the sound room there. She's the one that's been able to make this all work. I've had almost no text, and it's wonderful. It's so much better than last time.
Is that how you gauge it?
Oh, absolutely. Although I said Eddie's name wrong once, and I got a text about it.
I was going to text you.
The miracles of modern technology. So, all right, hey guys, we ready? Greg, why don't you start us off? Just a brief introduction, just who you are.
Okay. My name's Craig Cates, and I'm running for District 1 County Commissioner.
Hey, Craig. Annalise.
Oh, thank you. I'm Annalise Mannix. I'm running for District 1 County Commissioner, and I'm running because the county is at a crossroads, and I believe the experience and knowledge and lifelong dedication that I have
will be good for us.
Will be great for the Keys.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll start off with the second funniest person in Florida, Stephanie Cable.
That's right. Don't you forget it.
Actually, a contest she won.
funniest female.
Well,
At
oh
the-
my God.
At times during COVID, the different municipalities and the county have had very different COVID policies. And there's been a lot of tension between different areas of the Keys over that. How can you improve communication between municipalities and the county to give a clearer message to our guests and our residents?
For both? Okay. Annalise, why don't you start us off?
Well, I think it's very important that the commission have consistent and friendly interaction with the other cities throughout the year, so that when these issues come up, there's an easy flow of information back and forth. I think the county mayor has really done a good job in providing information, although not everybody, it doesn't work both ways all the time. I think we need to continue to partner in all things. I think our climate resilience is important. Our emergency management issues are very important, and dealing with the COVID issues give us wonderful opportunity to work well together. And I've done that over my years, working with other counties, working with Key West, the city, and other cities. So that's something that I'll be able to bring to the table.
Thanks, Annalise. Craig.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Stephanie. We had some problems in the beginning, especially in the beginning when the county was set up to a level 4 state of emergency. All those decisions were made by our emergency management director and a 5-panel group, the executive board. The commission did not have any voice in what was going on. We pushed hard to get the voice back, the representatives of the citizens. So we listened to the citizens all through the Keys and make a decision accordingly. Yes, they need to work closer together, and that's one of the things I can bring to the table. I had just got on the board at the time. I'm glad I was there. I was appointed by the governor, so this time I'm running for the election of the seat. But that being said, my 5-term experience as a mayor of Key West with my open door policy and speaking to people and bringing people together, I think will be a huge asset for the commission.
Thank you, Craig. Mandy, and a quick shout out to John Padgett watching from New York City. Hey, John. Mandy.
Sorry. Question for both candidates. Again, what part of the county's emergency response pay policy would you rewrite if able?
Craig, you start.
Well, I think everybody knows my answer to that, but no, this is an issue we got. Just no city implemented a pay policy like we did. Yes, the county is tasked with being the emergency management director, but that doesn't mean that we change salary people that are making a very strong salary and they become hourly and they get paid overtime. I mean, for working 2 days, you can get $2,800 in overtime, and you're a salary employee when to do your job that you normally do. I think the policy has to be looked closely to. What happened with our last debate, it got emotional. We had Hurricane Irma. We had people who were sleeping underneath their desks. They were cutting trees when they normally work in the office. Yes, I totally understand that was a different situation, but we may have 4 or 5 of these non-events, but we have to prepare for them. So let's just go back, normal overtime if you're working overtime. If your salary, you work extra time, you can get comp time sometime during the year when it's slower, and pay the people the overtime to come in and need to do the extra work. That's how everybody, other community does it. That's how every person does it. We all prepare our homes for a hurricane. We use the taxpayers' money. We have to spend it properly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Annalise.
This is an issue that's come up over and over and over again. It came up a few years back. It came up with COVID. It came up recently. What I would like to see is an improvement on the last policy that was developed and the improvement on the policy before. We need to know who, when, and why they're working, what kind of jobs people are doing, and have that laid out. Unlike my opponent, I don't think you should grab back people's money that have worked and performed for the citizens of the county. But I do believe that management employees that are are doing much of their normal duties, really don't deserve overtime. They're management employees, and they expect to be paid for their salary for the year. If there is some excessive event, which I haven't yet, I spent a month out there in Hurricane Georges working outside from dusk to dawn to dusk, and never received a minute of overtime or extra pay. I would like, it would have been nice to, but I didn't. But I do think that a little bit of extra time so somebody can go back home and spend that time with their family is the right thing to do. Thank you.
I was brought up in that kind of comment. I rebut that. Unlike my opponent.
Okay, well, a quick rebuttal.
Yes.
So
Very
I
quickly.
didn't catch that one, you're right.
It wasn't a grab back of people's money. I think some people that shouldn't have been implemented at a time, and certain people should not have been paid that 29,000 hours of overtime when no other city in all of Monroe County paid that. There wasn't a grab back. It was a fact.
Thank you, Craig. Joe?
Okay, just one versus the other here. Annalise, what are the items on your list that you think maybe are better ideas than what your opponent's talking about? And Craig, what do you think are your better ideas that's better than what she's talking about?
Well, I believe that we need to have a very solid stormwater plan. We have a stormwater plan. We need to continue to move forward, but analyze what works and what doesn't work, and make sure we have a consistent funding for it. It's much easier to change your mood as a commission changes. We need to have consistent funding for stormwater. We need to have consistent funding for sea level rise. I believe that we need to take care of our communities. My goal is to take care of our district. It's to bring landscaping. It's to take care of the people that are being squashed into very small lots while part of the area is being developed for expansive homes. My goal is to help the people of Stock Island, to help the people in Key Largo, to help the people in Tavernier, up and down the Keys. So my goal would be to focus on what they want and implementing the Livable Keys communities programs that the people developed over time, verify where are we in that process, and make sure we move forward and complete those programs. And if it needs to change, then get those people back together, get that community back together, and do what the communities want for the Keys.
Thanks, Annalise. Craig, ideas?
Yeah, Joe, I don't think I have different or better opinions. I agree with a lot of things that Annalise says, and we all want basically the same thing. What I think I bring more experience to the table. My years, 5 terms as the mayor of Key West, working with the government, going to Tallahassee, building relationships with the governor after Hurricane Irma, evacuating, preparing, and opening after the storm, and also going to Washington, D.C., meeting with FEMA. I was on the Ocean Week. I spoke on their council of communities inside national preserves. That being said, that's what I bring. In our district, District 1, with Stock Island, the development there has gone wild in the last few years, and I say that. I know a lot of people that's doing it, but they got communities out there. We got an industrial area. We need to preserve that. We've talked about working waterfront, and then we keep giving it away, just like the project in Maloney. We can't continue to do that. We can't just keep talking about it. We have to produce, and I'm the one that's going to be able to do that, bring that to the table. When we went for City Hall, they said we couldn't do it. I don't give up. I'm persistent, and when I see something needs to be done, I stay on it till it's done.
Thanks, Craig.
Oh, wait. He used my name. He didn't say opponent. He used my name.
Okay, then absolutely.
Okay. I have the best experience to work on the issues that the county has in front of it for the next 5, 10, and 30 years. I'm a licensed professional engineer. I have spent my entire career working on Keys issues, working on water quality, working on creating new seagrass, working on building Smathers Beach and the other 4 beaches in Key West. I have helped develop the county climate action plan. I was in Washington, D.C., lobbying for federal funding for climate when I ran into Kristen Jacobs, and I ran into members from the Miami
Time, Annalise.
group, and we created the Florida four-county climate compact. We wouldn't have had one. We wouldn't have had a four-county climate compact.
Well, thank you.
My experience.
You only get, you're running with it now, so,
Yes, sir.
okay. Richard?
Well, the subject of leadership and accountability is a cornerstone of this year's election season. And I guess I would ask each of you to assess the job that our county manager is doing and what aspects of his job performance that you would like to see rectified, because based on the special pay and based on some other things, it's clear that the county is not always operating with the best interest of the community at heart. So how would you respond to that as far as the county manager's job performance has been?
I guess it's actually Craig, start, and then Annalise.
Okay.
Don't mention each other.
No, because I get like 2 minutes of rebuttal. Okay. No, you're absolutely right. And I think Roman Gastesi, our county manager, is very capable. But I think as our commission, we have to give him direction, and we don't have to come up with the idea how we're going to save money. He's the professional. If our commission, I wish they would have said, this is the budget you're going to have, this is the only funding you're going to have, do what you have to do to make it work. That's why we pay him $200,000 a year to manage this, give all the services you can give at this amount of money, just like any other business is going to do. That's how we'll hold him. He's capable of doing it, where he takes direction from us, and we got to be strong enough to stand up and tell him what to do.
Annalise?
Roman has really changed the county in a lot of wonderful ways. He has brought more communication. He has professionalized a lot of the county staff and enhanced the work procedures and policies. But we do need to see a little bit more, I think, open communication before commission meetings. It's good to sit down, to have staff sit down with each commissioner and discuss all the items on the commission, to have the commission meeting go more quickly. But I think there are times that we do need to have a little bit more discussion and more public information that brings clarity to the people of the Keys. So I would encourage that change. As a professional engineer, as somebody that has spent almost 30 years working in the Keys and in municipal, county, and city governments, I think my experience of informing the commission every first and third Tuesday I spent at City Hall in Key West, informing the commission of things that they should vote on. That process gives me the ability to ask the right questions, to understand what questions aren't being asked, to understand what issues the county staff might not be bringing, that we really do need to know.
Thanks, Annalise. Okay, another round. This round is kind of going a little slower, so if you guys have some simpler questions, that would be appreciated. I'd really like to get through a whole group of you, and then you guys, it's to your best interest to have very concise answers. So we're going to try to get through this so we get on to the next one. Stephanie.
New affordable housing project on Stock Island.
You're killing me. You start off with affordable housing?
Question, Todd.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let it be noted that Todd interrupted me. The new affordable housing project on Stock Island was approved with 0 units allocated for low or very low income. How is that yes or no, acceptable when we have so many families waiting for public housing assistance?
Absolutely unacceptable.
Craig?
Yeah, that started before I got on the commission. As you know, affordable housing was one of my priorities as the mayor of Key West. The 104 units being built on Stock Island by the city now came from a advisory committee that I put together with citizens. We had a referendum to raise the height of it. So it's very important to me. It took a long time, and we fought, and that was one of my priorities, low and very low of those housing. So we need to get back to that, and I hope I get more support in the commission to do that in the future.
Okay. But the one she's talking about, you were specifically to her question.
Yes.
Okay.
That started before I was on the pitch. I've been going, I was still mayor when that project started, when they came up with an amount of units and their percentages of what they were before I got there.
Okay. Mandy.
We're about to hear from representatives on both sides of the Key West cruise ship debate. As potential representatives for the very next district up from Key West, how do you envision the decision of the Key West cruise ship debate? How will that impact the entire county and specifically District 1?
Craig, start.
Well, I don't think it's going to have as much of an impact on the county as it is the city, and I'm leaving that up to the citizens, however they vote. And as a county commissioner, we will work with the city government and the citizens of Key West to deal with whatever comes our way, and we'll work through it.
Thanks, Craig. Annalise.
I don't believe there'll be a significant impact to the county district itself. I think there are a lot of businesses on Duval Street that are going to be impacted, but generally throughout the rest of the county, it's not going to have a major impact.
Okay. Joe.
Every time we have king tides, we realize that sea level rise is real, and it's going on right now. We talk a lot about it. It's a daunting task. We don't know how to pay for it, but what would you do to start the process and get something going towards that?
Joe, that wasn't a very easy question. Annalise, give me your concise answer on how we fix
I was
sea level rise.
knee-deep and my car was flooded in that last rain event. So I can understand and feel for people living in that environment. I believe we have a generalized plan for our roadway projects. We have a climate action plan for the county. What we need to do is analyze each area that's negatively impacted and using a risk-based approach, look for permanent funding, whether it be an extra sales tax or a special benefit area tax or preferably a toll road that allows us to work from a risk and cost-benefit analysis plan moving forward immediately. We also need to deal with immediacy, not just long-term.
Thanks, Annalise. Craig.
Joe, obviously you hear a lot about that now. You said you've been here 5 years. Flooding's been going on for a long, long time here, being born and raised here and business here for many, many years. Flooding, the Keys, high tides, we have some flooding, but we have to get the drainage working. Now, there's a lot of talk of elevating roads and building for 100 years, 60 years, 75 years, but what about the person that would just like their street not to flood for the next few years, and so they don't have to buy cars as technology changes daily, there'll be better ideas in the future. So let's get back realistically. Let's start fixing these roads for 10 years, 15 years, be a third of the price, and then we'll start working on the future. We're going to deal with it for a long time, but let's get realistic of what the funds we have.
Thank you, Craig. Richard.
Fairly simple question, since we do rely on the state for support. How would you assess Governor DeSantis's job performance to this point? 1
Craig.
being the lowest and 5 being the highest.
Craig, you start.
Well, I'd like to say I'm glad I'm not in his shoes. I mean, all this, just like everybody that's been working hard with this, there's no playbook for this. They're learning, they're trying to listen to the experts. I think the guy's heart is in it. I think he's doing a good job for what the information he's given, and there's no right or wrong answer there. So I think he's done a good job for what he's having to deal with. Florida's coming back, our economy's coming back. I wish nobody would get sick and I wish nobody would pass away, but the reality is it's happening, and I think he's done as good a job as he could.
Annalise?
I would give him a 1. I don't think that he put the risk and the health and safety of our citizens first in the dealing with COVID. He did not follow the CDC recommendations over and over again. You know, the citizens' risk, the citizens' health is more important than anything.
All right, we're doing pretty good on time here, so closing statements, you can have a heavy minute like we did before. Annalise, you start. Craig, you finish.
All right, well, thank you, Hometown PAC, for putting the forum on. It's a wonderful public service to everybody. I love the Keys. I love our diverse community. I love all the people we see on each island that care so much for each other. I love the water and the environment, and I have worked hard to protect that and the quality of our lives for many, many years. I'm running because I'm really saddened by what I see in the Keys. There's too much traffic, damage to our environment, homes and neighborhoods stressed and almost pushed to extinction in some cases. We need to have a commission that's looking forward, solving the problems we have identified for years, yet not implemented the solutions for. I'll be an advocate for residents throughout the Keys to fight against rampant development, more congestion, wasteful government spending, and escalating insurance rates, while being a champion for our fragile environment and our science-based public health policies and wise planning for the future of the Keys. We face huge challenges moving forward that need to be addressed now so that we don't lose our way of life. We can't be passive in confronting these issues, and that's why I'm asking for your support this November 3rd.
Thank you, Annalise. Craig?
Yes, and I feel the same way. I've been elected 5 times as the mayor of Key West. I love this community. I love the Keys. I've been here for generations. I raised my kids here, my granddaughters growing up here, and I want it to continue to be the wonderful place that we all enjoy. We got to get back to our one human family. We got to start working together again, and that's what I feel I will bring to the commission, just like I brought it to the city commission. There's so many things that need to be done. Traffic, I was the only one that just voted to accept our 2019 traffic study that would have stopped commercial building until we mitigated these traffic issues, but we voted to accept the 2017 study that allowed us to continue to build. We cannot address these issues if we keep kicking the can down the road. I'll be there for you. Open door policy, you have my cell number. I meet with everybody, and let's talk about the issues and let's work together to make this a wonderful place, paradise. Thank you.
Thank you, Annalise. Thank you, Craig. One of these people will be your County Commission District 1 representative. Well, the cruise ship people come up, and we're going to rearrange the deck here. Yeah. While we're doing that, one of the thank yous we should do is our donors, all our hometown members. They've been very generous this election, and we really appreciate it. And I guess I got a text, a special shout out to one of our members, Sid Goldman. It's his birthday. So happy birthday, Sid. Come on, guys, don't be shy.
We're the home stretch now.
Now, we've put a lot of thought into how this is going to work, the cruise ship question and answer session. We don't have it figured out really well. Up till not that long ago, we didn't really know who was going to be speaking. But we have a great panel here, and this should be interesting. So I think if everybody will bear with us as we try to get through it, it'll be a similar format to what we were doing, but we'll figure it out. I mean, it's one of the most contentious issues we've probably had in Key West, at least in my memory. And I think everybody has to remember that we all love the island. We all live here. Win, lose, or draw, it's still our home. So why don't we start at the end down there? Introduce yourself and your, I guess, affiliation or interest to be on this panel today. We'll kind of figure it out.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Arlo Haskell. I am the treasurer of the Committee for Safer, Cleaner Ships. I was born and raised here in the Florida Keys. You're going to meet Captain Will Benson here as well. We grew up together. I've known Will my whole life, or his whole life. I'm a couple years on him.
Diving in the canals and playing baseball. So.
Exactly. Grew up in this place, loved this place. And back in March, we began to talk about how to limit cruise ships going forward in Key West. We organized a petition drive and got 2,500 signatures from registered voters in the city of Key West to put this item on the ballot. Our main interest is, giving the people of Key West a chance to decide the future of cruise ships here.
All right, guys.
Hi, my name is Bill Lay. I am representing Keep the Cruise Ships in Key West. I'm here with Captain Mike Weinhofer from the Compass Rose. Also from the radio station, what is it? 104.1. 104.1, shameless plug. I am here for one reason and one reason only, and that is people. This cruise ship referenda, if it passes, is going to devastate our economy, and it's going to devastate people, actual human beings. People like you, people who are watching today. I'm all for change. I'm all for everything. Economic change is actually good and it's healthy. I've been through it many times. The Key West I'm in here now, it's not the same Key West I was in 22 years ago. But that was a gradual change. There's nothing wrong with change as long as it's balanced and compromised. And that's why I'm here, trying to fight for the people, not devastate the people.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, guys. So I guess you guys ask questions, they'll decide who, ask to a...
One side.
Yeah, one side or another. It's hard to say pro or con or whatever,
Right.
but we'll figure it out. And then you guys will decide who you want to answer the question respectively. And we'll still do our minute and a half. We got a timer coming up here right now. And minute and a half, and we're going to have to really be, almost every part of this is calling out the opposition. So we'll just kind of figure that out and try to be polite and
Can I just add something before we start? Real quick. There's been some talk about division. I have no division with these gentlemen whatsoever. We work together. We seem to disagree, but we will do this together.
Good. If we can keep that theme.
I second that wholeheartedly. But, Bill and I have worked together for many years, so we have different opinions on this one. But
and when I go offshore fishing, I go fishing with Mike.
So get the scotch.
Hopefully that's the way. Usually I really want a lot of, acrimony, but this one, be nice not to. We'll get there. So Mandy, what do you got for us?
All right. I would think for the committee guys, for Arlo and Will. The city's busiest cruise ship port at Pier B behind Margaritaville Key West Resort and Marina is privately owned and operated under a continuing contract that began in 1993 with the city of Key West. As you guys all know, the city receives 25% of disembarkation fees from Pier B. What happens if the courts decide that the proposed referendums, if passed, do not apply to privately owned businesses? And is the city in jeopardy of forfeiting much of its cruise ship revenues from Mallory Square and Outer Mole, only to have Pier B continue to welcome whichever ships it chooses?
First of all, point of clarification, Pier B is privately operated. It is not privately owned. It is built upon sovereign submerged lands that are owned by the state of Florida. These lands are constitutionally protected for the public benefit of the people. So that's a quick point of clarification. But hypothetically, if the judge were to rule that the referenda could not impose any restrictions on Pier B, the city of Key West, they would enter into a competition between Pier B and the city of Key West operated piers, and they would have to figure that out between themselves. I mean, that would be up to the city to figure out how those regulations work.
Okay. Joe.
I've heard a lot of numbers tossed around about how much income the city gets from cruise ships and how much people would be affected, how much passengers spend when they come into the city. And it's all kind of a maze to me, like all this is. But I'm just wondering, what are the real numbers? What are the real figures? Who would be hurt the most if ships stopped coming into port?
I'll let you guys start with this.
Just to be clear, you said who would be hurt the most?
Yeah.
In my opinion, every man, woman, and child in Key West. That number that we've thrown around, I think both myself and the other side of this table agree on, is roughly around between $85 and $90 million a year, somewhere around there. that has a massive impact on our community. It's about 24% of the spending that's done off of cruise ships by a vessel that brings in a third of our tourists. Now, again, compromise is fine, but to end this, exactly, just cut it off at the knees, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect a lot of people. It's going to affect David Horowitz, who just got let off from the Hemingway House after 20 years. It's going to affect Marilyn Atkinson, who just had a 7-year-old child, worked at Irish Kevin's for 10 years and was saving up for a house. Can't do that anymore, had to leave. These are the things. We're already in COVID time. This referenda is just going to add to the devastation that we're already in with COVID.
There's one thing I want to add to that. Go ahead, Mike. People don't understand that 900,000 people come off the cruise ships. And one of the things that is part of that is, how are we going to replace that advertising? Those 900,000 people come here for 4 hours and see it. Today I fished a honeymoon couple that came here 3 years ago on a cruise ship. They fished a morning and a half day with me today and are lobstering on Thursday. How are we going to, how much money are we going to give the TDC to replace that 900,000 introductions to Key West?
Thanks, sir.
And could I get a response from the other side as well?
Sure. Large cruise ships are simply not a major contributor to our economy, and they're not a major source of jobs. Since 1990, we've seen a 750% increase in cruise ships. Job growth over that time has been flat. There are a small handful of jobs directly supported by cruising, but for many businesses in the city, large cruise ship passengers are a low-spending nuisance that competes with a higher-spending clientele. Over the last 20 years, when you look at the rate of change from one year to the next, you see that job growth actually often falls as cruise ship calls rise. In years where we have peak cruise ship numbers, you see job creation actually going down. We haven't had a cruise ship now in Key West for 6 months, plus the bars have been closed, plus we have strict limitations on hotels, restaurants, and retail businesses. And yet, sales tax figures in July for the county were down only 9%. The August unemployment report that just came out from the state of Florida shows we have more jobs in Monroe County today than at any point during 2018. The city just passed a $62 million budget tonight. That's bigger than last year's actual budget. And over the last 20 years, city general fund revenue has grown at least double the rate of cruise ship traffic. The impact of cruise ships on city finances, on revenue at large in the city, has only gone down over the years.
Thanks, so. Richard.
The numbers that are being bandied about by both sides seem to be very extreme. And I know that, it's very easy to paint a picture when you have certain numbers to back you up. Why is there such a disparity between the numbers that are being presented by both sides?
Oh, you guys start and then these guys.
Yeah, well, we are talking about a big change, and I think there is a basic misunderstanding about what we're trying to accomplish. It's been portrayed that the referenda would effectively be a ban. It's not a ban. The referenda is a set of reasonable limitations on the size of cruise ships that can call on Key West and the numbers of passengers that can disembark each day. It's not going to eliminate revenue. It's going to adjust it. We don't know when cruising is going to start up again. The no sale order has been in place since March. It's probably going to be extended when it expires at the end of September. It'll probably last through the end of the year. And just last week, Carnival Cruise Lines announced that they were canceling most of their sales through March and April of early next year. So we're in a big zero period. And whenever cruising starts up again, sometime next year or possibly the year after, if the referendum pass, smaller, safer, cleaner cruise ships are going to begin to come to Key West and bring tens of millions of dollars of new income into the city. It's going to be a change from the type of ship we saw in the past, from the type of customer we saw coming off those ships in the past, but it's going to be a big change from this long period of zero passengers. Right now we're living through the ban. What we're talking about is restarting that economy with a different class of ships.
Bill, your thoughts?
My thoughts are simple. That's just not true. In 2019, we had 417 ports of call. If this referenda had passed, we would have had 22. Does anybody in this room or watching think that's a balance? It's just not true. You know, that is a 98 or 95% droppage. That is drastic. That is not a compromise. A compromise is working somewhere in the middle, working a comprehensive plan to make things a little bit better. Taking things from here to there in a mature, comprehensive way with a plan. This city doesn't park a car without a comprehensive plan of some sort. How, and by the way, just to be clear, the city, who is going to be, basically, if this passes, have it dumped on their lap, are going to be put in a very adversarial situation. And if you don't think it's true, please take a walk down Duval Street, because Mary, Joe, who work at the ice cream factory, don't work there anymore. Tom doesn't work at Irish Kevin's anymore. And by the way, Tom just got married. These are people. These are actual people. These are your neighbors that you see on your street. These are your neighbors who buy the Citizen. These are neighbors who listen to you, 104.1. These are your neighbors. These are actual people who are going to be affected immediately. Once again, I do not mind the change. I'm all for change, just comprehensively and in a compromised sort of way.
Thank you, Bill. It's okay. You're fine. We got some latitude now, time-wise. Stephanie?
I think the against side just gave us their view of what Duval Street looks like if this passes. The pro side, can you give us your view of what Duval Street looks like, and why do you think it'll look that way?
Yeah, I mean, collectively, we've abandoned one of the most, historically rich parts of our city. Front Street and Lower Duval Street is one of the architectural and historical wonders of the world. And if I have friends visiting, and it's a day when there are 3 cruise ships in port and 12,000 passengers unloading, I don't take them down to that part of town. Visitors that come to Key West and stay at our guest houses, they avoid that part of town on those days. I think this is an opportunity to really revitalize downtown Key West, particularly the cruise ship corridor around there, which has really been given over to a kind of lowest common denominator form of tourism in many respects. There's some great long-running businesses, down in that area. I worked as a waiter at Rooftop Cafe for many years when I was first out of college. There's some great long-term businesses, but the general tenor of that neighborhood has degraded during the same time that Key West has become more and more desirable of a location. So I think what I see with the passage of the referenda is a steady revitalization of downtown Key West.
I would add to that today I fished with a gentleman who, before coming on this trip, called and asked, hey, Will, are cruise ships back in there? Because I have, concerns with the COVID situation and the super spreader mechanisms that the cruise ships are. And when I was able to respond to him and say, no, there's a no sail order. We haven't had cruise ships for a while. He felt comfortable enough with that to come here. And tonight is going out to dinner, on Duval Street.
Bill, you guys, what do you think Key West is going to look like if this passes?
Real quick, my people today came from cruise ships. I don't ever fish people on cruise ships that come in. They're here for 4 hours, 5 hours. It's a quick sample. You're right, I don't take my people downtown when there's a cruise ship here. But 32 years ago, I moved to a tourist destination. I knew, in a perfect world, I'd love to see 90% of the tourists go away and live in my private little island and make my charter business fly. But you know what, there's some negatives. There's some impacts. It has to happen. It's the same when we fish on the flats or I fish offshore. There's an impact. We make an impact being here. If no one was here, it'd be an awesome place. But there's some give and take. There has to be.
Right now, I couldn't, go ahead, let's talk. Right now, I couldn't tell you what Key West is going to look. I know the city has put together a comprehensive plan to revitalize Duval Street. I haven't seen it yet. I hope to see it in the future. And again, once again, I said it before and I'll say it again. Change is good. Comprehensive change is good, done properly, without devastating the people who live here. All the people who either work in bars or it's going to affect the people uptown. It's going to affect the doctors. It's going to affect the accountants. This is a domino effect. I've seen this happen before. It's going to roll over. And it's not something that's going to come back like this. This is going to take a long period of time if this referendum goes through, and it's going to affect, again, I keep saying it, keep beating a dead horse, people, the very people who are in this room will be affected in one way or another. In one way or another, very people in this room, good, bad, or maybe really bad. But if this goes through, it's immediate. Again, this is a binding referendum. Again, if this referendum came as a recommendation, I would be sitting next to them. I would. But it didn't come as a recommendation. It's a binding referendum, which immediately is going to hurt people.
Thanks, Bill. One reminder, it's a polite to look at me, but look at the camera. Look at Kelly. She's way prettier. So, Mandy.
Can I ask the same, address the
You can do
question to
whatever you
both
want.
sides? Okay.
And we're doing okay. Obviously, our schedule is 7:30. We sort of anticipated running a little late. I think Jathan will completely cut us off at 8. But this is important. We want to hash it out. If we start repeating ourselves, we'll stop it. But I think there's still plenty to discuss. So, Mandy, whatever you want.
Bill Lay mentioned compromise, and Arlo mentioned that the proposal and the referendum are a reasonable reduction. There are supporters those who support a better managed cruise ship industry here in Key West have suggested certain compromises that include blackout dates for cruise ships during the busiest times of year, longer minimum stays for ships to give them time to stay here to benefit more businesses in town, and a gradual increase in disembarkation fees, as well as a gradual reduction, say a 20% reduction each year over the next 5 years in the number of ships that come to call. I'm asking both sides. Would the committee and/or the other side of the committee support any such compromise? And if not, does the Safer Cleaner Ships Committee have any suggestions to replace the lost revenues both to the city of Key West and private businesses? So I'd like a response from both teams there.
Bill, why don't you guys start?
Of course. That's a very fair question, and it's exactly what I've just been talking about. You just put out a plan. You literally just put out a plan in about 30 seconds.
Well, it wasn't me. I can't take credit for it.
I understand that. I understand that. And now to bring up some uncomfortable conversation, when it is uncomfortable. We very much tried to have a meeting with the committee, the other committee. We very much tried to have a meeting. We had that meeting. One of those two gentlemen were there, the other was not. We asked for a 2-year stay so we can sit down and see if we can come up with a compromise to this, because we immediately recognized the devastation. I'm not going to tell you what the answer was. I just will tell you that it wasn't accepted very well. I'll just leave it at that it wasn't accepted very well. And I said, thank you, but no thank you. It's probably the nicest way I can put that. I left that meeting going, wow, okay, we're not even willing to have a conversation about this. And again, your question is my answer. Everything you just mentioned is a compromise, and it's something to work towards without devastating the public, without devastating David Horowitz, again, who worked 20 years at the Hemingway House and was just let go with 29 other people. Now, were they let go because of cruise ships? No. They were let go because we're in a COVID situation and there's a no sail order in town. But COVID will be gone. Cruise ships have an opportunity to come back. And I believe it's October 31st is when the cruise no sail order ends on that day. Whether it's extended on or not, we don't know. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. But right now, cruise ships are sailing in Europe at a very good success rate, by the way.
Arlo.
Yeah, the referenda were actually, the result of a very spirited, public debate that began back in March as it appeared that cruise ships were spreading COVID-19 around the globe. A lot of people in Key West were calling for an outright ban on cruise ships. We didn't think that would be a prudent, long-term solution, and that's kind of when we got involved with this compromise. That is a reasonable, set of limits. Bill mentioned that the city has a lot of regulations in place. It doesn't allow you to park a car without a plan. There's not a single regulation that applies to cruise ships in the city. It's the only unregulated business we have. So we're trying to put forward a set of sensible limitations. Bill talked about a meeting he had with Will Benson and Will's brother Jolly. That meeting took place after the referenda had been signed by 2,500 citizens, after it had been certified by the clerk and was already on its way to becoming a ballot. At that point, we don't have the authority, if we wanted to retract this referenda. This is something the public has made happen. The supervisor of elections has certified, and it's going forward. We can't pull it back at this point. It's there's a lot of work we put into it, and yeah. So as far as that kind of a compromise, that's just
So that's not, so any of those proposed compromises, blackout dates and a gradual reduction, that's not possible. Like the committees, that's sort of out of the committee's hands. Is that what you're saying
I
now?
think, Manny, just if I can jump in, right now, we're barring a lawsuit or a judge stopping it. It's a binary decision on each one of these three questions, correct?
Correct,
So that
yes or no.
the time to discuss it and craft it is long before us. Right now, the voters, the people watching this, they're going to have three questions in Key West, yes or no. Doesn't matter if you like a little bit or a lot of each, that's it, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
But I would add that, you mentioned before that you don't do anything without a comprehensive plan, right? Well, we have that plan, and it's called the Murray Report. It was commissioned by the Navy, City of Key West, and in that report, there's laid out, all of these issues. And then we had a vote in 2013 about whether or not to move forward with dredging, and it was overwhelming. And yet, since then, we've seen a 27% increase in larger cruise ships, and there's never been any leadership, and that's why we have referenda. Referenda at any level is basically a failure of leadership. This report's been on the table. It's very clear. In it, there's lots of great information, data, and it's never been listened to. And so, that compromise, I think we took it upon ourselves to, try to reach out to achieve compromise, and that is with safer, cleaner ships, smaller ships that are the more responsible type of ship to bring into this, very limited channel that we have here, and kind of achieve a balance between, what's happening down in Duval Street, the economy, the quality of life, the environmental issues, and it's all right there, but it's never been, taken up by anybody at the city or within the chamber.
Let me stop you, because I took us way off track, but I want to give you guys some opportunity to respond to this, then we'll get back to the normal format.
I have a problem with the term safer, cleaner ships. And the reason why I have the problem with that is the newer, largest ships, I'm not saying the 8,000 passenger, but the 2,500 passenger ships, the Majesty at Sea, is a zero pollution ship. They recycle all their food. They burn everything on board to create energy. They are a zero landfill ship. Look it up. It is one of the cleanest ships there is. The newer ships are much, much cleaner and much more efficient than a smaller other ships that we're talking about. And it kind of blows my mind. We keep talking about ships that are built in the 1990s. Those ships are antiquated. These ships that are built in 2010, 2005, 2007 are so much cleaner, so much more efficient. The whole thing about cruise ships burning bunker oil is a fallacy. They burn the same diesel I burn in my truck and in my boats. They don't burn bunker oil anymore. That's a fallacy. It doesn't happen.
And to add to that, the report that is being quoted is from 2005. I'm pretty sure everybody can understand we're not in 2005 anymore, it's 2020, and things have progressed since then, quite a bit.
That's the point. It's 15 years of inaction on cruise ships.
Well,
and the time.
let's get back to the regular scheduled program here. And Joe?
Not asking you to defend the attorneys for Pier B Corporation. I don't know if you can defend an attorney, really. But they have been fighting mightily with all their power to first take these issues off the ballot. And now, I guess we're still waiting on a judge's decision to see if the votes will be counted. The very people who would vote on this issue are the people you're talking about who are in the position of maybe losing money if the referenda are passed. So what's wrong with letting the people in the city vote and decide?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I'm not Pier B. I believe in
I understand. That's what I said.
I believe in democracy and I believe in a vote.
Yeah.
I'm here because I want everybody to vote no, no, no. That's why I'm here. I didn't say I don't want anybody to vote. I want everybody to vote.
In case it wasn't clear, they want you to vote no.
But, all right, so just, I'll give you as much as I know. I'm aware of the Pier B situation. I don't know who's not aware of the Pier B situation. I get it. I understand why they would have a problem with it because, that pier is part of their operational plan. When they built it and spent the money on that pier, and again, please don't quote me on the numbers. I don't know exactly how much they spent on the building and the pier, but money was spent. And that became part of the operating plan was that pier, and now we're taking that away from them in some sort of, referenda. I would, if I owned Pier B, I would fight it. But me, Bill Lay, sitting here in front of you, I want people to vote. I want people to vote. I believe in democracy. I'm here because I care. I'm not here because I'm getting paid. I'm not here for any other agenda other than the people and the economy of Key West. I cannot urge that enough. This, again, I have some history with this. I've seen this happen before in other places. Once you remove whatever makes one of the focal engines of what makes things economically run in one area, I'm not talking about change it. I'm talking about removing it. Gone. See you later. Bye-bye. Take Mickey Mouse out of Disney. Take Donald Duck out of Disney. Take the castle out of Disney. It's a different Disney. It's changed. People are not going to go back. It's possible people wouldn't go back. Probably a bad example. But take the means
I'm
of
going to
getting
stop you,
Bill. Key
Bill.
West.
They win Academy Awards with Toy Story.
So I guess,
like I said, bad example.
Arlo, those guys really don't have anything to say about Pier B, but.
Well, Arlo, you made the statement a while back that the people of Key West never really voted to bring ships here anyway. So, I mean, why
That's right.
shouldn't they have the opportunity to vote?
That's very well put, Joe. I mean, we never voted for cruise ships that are 3 city blocks long. We never voted for cruise ships that draw 28 feet of water and stir up the harbor and spread silt all over the seagrass beds and the reef. So now we finally get to vote about putting a reasonable set of limitations forward. We're in court, as you mentioned. We're confident in the legal merits on our side, and we'll continue to see that process through and give the people of Key West the vote that they deserve on this issue. I've got a little time. I wanted to. No, we can move on. That's fine.
Well, let's move on, and better to have more questions and stuff. Richard.
Each side has demonstrated a very determined, well-funded support strategy. And this kind of builds a little bit on what Joe had asked. So how do you justify the will of the people, which in some cases is the 2,500 plus people who signed the petition in the first place, with the will of the workers or the will of the people that are ostensibly affected by what could come down the pike? Whose will wins out in this deal? Because someone's going to get hurt, right?
Who's first?
Can I address it real quick? One thing I have to say, I have 5 charter boats at Key West. I've been here 32 years. I live in Cudjoe. Because my business is here, it affects all my businesses. I won't be able to vote. How is that fair when I'm taking 5 impacts with no say? I have no representation. I pay a tremendous amount of money to Key West. All the people, I would say a lot of the people that work in the businesses in Key West do not live in Key West. Very expensive place to live. A lot of the workers live up the Keys. So none of those people will have a vote.
And also, the workers you know, when they said that they called, you know, they wanted to have a debate about this and this and that, they never necessarily called the 200 block. I don't know. At least my phone never rang. I know other people's phone didn't ring. I don't know if they
Who
actually
is they,
called the
Bill?
people who were affected.
Not us, you mean?
Trying not to call them out. You just told
No,
them
but
to
not,
call
no,
everybody.
I understand. I said debate, you're not saying hometown.
I'm not saying hometown.
Okay.
No, I am not saying hometown. You know, at the end of the day, the people will speak. There are 15,000 registered voters in Key West. I forgot how many showed up for the primary. I believe 8,000, if I'm not mistaken. So I still got 7,000 to work with. And again, I'm here to show those people that they have a say. And voting couldn't be, you know, and now I'm going to tell you to vote for whatever side, but vote. Make sure you vote. I want to see 100% voter turnout. I really do. Sounds naive, I know, but that's what I want to see is 100% voter turnout, because this is going to affect all of you, all of you.
Guys.
Yeah, I mean, but Mike said he had 5 charter boats, you know, I mean, there's 4 other people that, any of them live in the city of Key West?
No.
So
Not one of them.
not one of them lives in the city of Key West. Well, I mean, I too, live in Sugarloaf Key, and I run one boat. I'm a lone owner operator, similar to many, many other guides that are, living down here in the Florida Keys, in the lower Florida Keys. And, I have seen it, in the time that I've grown up here as a kid and been a captain, the effects and impacts that the cruise ship traffic in the harbor has had on the marine environment. I used to dive coral heads that are now covered in silt. I've watched a diminishing population of tarpon, which is the bread and butter for a lot of, small businesses here that are good paying businesses. You can afford to, have a mortgage, have kids in school, and we're watching it, decline. And there's historical precedents, particularly with regards to the tarpon migration in Port Aransas, Texas, and Homosassa, where those fish alter their migratory patterns and no longer come. And that's what we're seeing, and one of the reasons that we've engaged on this issue is because we're seeing that impact daily. If you're out there at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, when the cruise ships are coming in, you can watch the exact effect that it has, on those fish. And if you dive in the water, you can see that, as the Murray report laid out, the harbor looks like a blasted moonscape. There's no soft corals, there's no Gorgonian sponges, there's no seagrass down there. It is a silt-covered blasted moonscape. And it's like you're trying to live in your house and you have a sofa or whatnot, but every morning a bulldozer comes through and, takes it all away. Are you going to stay there and be comfortable and be part of, a fish migration that supports, hundreds of jobs? That's the issue, for many of us, and one of the reasons that I've engaged in it.
I need to address that.
Michael, you, very quickly, I'll let you.
I'll be quick.
We're loose on rules right now.
In 1989, they put the TED devices in shrimp boats. Most people don't know this, they don't fish. I spend 300 days a year on the water. Used to spend 60 to 90 days fishing in the harbor, tarpon fishing, 8 hours a day, from March to June, okay? I didn't fish in the morning for an hour, I fished all day. I watched cruise ships go in. Yes, it shut the tarpon down for 15, 20 minutes, okay? What has changed in the harbor? We used to have all the shrimp boats come in and head. We used to have 50 shrimp boats on Stock Island. We now have 3. We used to watch head shrimp every day by Tank Island. There used to be giant schools of permit, giant schools of tarpon, okay? The cruise ships would go by and mud it up, but we'd fish, I'm fishing 10 feet from the channel, and it would shut down a fish for 15 minutes. What happened is, we have 4 shrimp boats here now. They don't head shrimp anymore. There aren't very few permit left in the harbor. There are very few tarpon left in the harbor. What has happened with siltation is from the shrimp boats offshore. When I brought up the TED devices into shrimp boats in 1989, I don't know if you guys know what the TED is. It's a turtle exclusion device. What it is a round hoop with bars on it. Shrimpers never wanted to touch the bottom, ever. If they touched the bottom, they pulled up the eelgrass and it filled the nets. When they put the TED devices in, the TED devices actually push the grass out of the shrimp boats, out of the nets. So they can pull for 3 or 4 hours, drag it across the bottom, and they rake up all the grass, all the eelgrass off the bottom. It goes right out the TEDs. You can get the kingfish fly plane for spotters, for kingfish, go out there and you can see every place the shrimp boats work. It's white sand now where there used to be all eelgrass beds, okay? With 2 days of north wind, we get white siltation all through the harbor. We have more sediment than we've ever had. There is no new restrictions on shrimp boats, okay? What happens is that on a falling tide, all that sand comes from the Gulf over to the Gulf and across the harbor and out to the reef.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Stephanie.
14 years in Key West, I've never heard so much talking of fish in my entire life. I've managed to avoid this. Election day happens. If all 3 referendums fail, or 1 or 2 fails, where does this organization move forward then? Do you go back at it, or do you accept that as the answer?
Well, it's to them, because you said if it fails. If you win and they lose, what happens?
I'll wait.
We are focused on getting everyone to vote yes for all 3 referenda in November. We haven't thought about November 4th. We know if we win, we're going to get sued by Pier B on November 4th. But other than that, we haven't thought about losing. We feel good about our chances. I mean, more than feeling good about our chances, we know we have a lot of work to do, a lot of people to convince. We're going to continue to, educate and research and share what we know and talk to voters in this community to show why limiting cruise ships in the future will be better for Key West. Mike said earlier that he'd love to see 90% of tourists go away, and that's not our goal at all. We don't feel that way. We're pro-tourism. We work in tourism. We want to see the city of Key West thrive, and we know that it's built around tourism. And we see this limitation on cruise ship size and disembarkation numbers as the best way forward for that.
Sure.
As hard as I am working to save the jobs of people like you, people who are watching right now, you have my pledge that on November 4th, after we win, I'll reach out, make that phone call and say, let's sit down and work this out. Because that is what I'm all about. I'm not going to walk around, I may be a little hungover on November 4th, but I'm going to wake up and make that phone call. The reason I'm going to make that phone call is because that's what community does. We work together for a common goal, a comprehensive plan to move forward together. Somewhere along the way, it was funny, this last commission meeting, J.T. Thompson was celebrated for 20 years of one human family. That flag right now is crumbled up and somewhere in the corner. We need to pull it out, iron it, and rehang it. And that needs on the issue and whatever issue we have in life. That needs to happen not tomorrow, not 2 days from now. So after we win on November 3rd, after we win on November 4th, my pledge to everybody who's watching here and everybody here who's asking questions, I will reach out to Arlo and Will and Jolly and said, let's sit down, let's figure this out, and let's bring some other people involved, maybe the city, maybe the county. Let's get some comprehensive planning together to make a great community for everybody.
Actually, that's a great intro into, we're done with questions, we're running past time, but I think we really had a good discussion. Give us your speech to why you're going to win or why you should win, and then you guys will end. And I like what y'all were saying, and I actually had a question designed almost to that. So go ahead, Bill.
Listen, Key West.
Keep it within like a half hour.
A half hour. Got it. I have 30 minutes. All right. Listen, Key West. We are 2 groups who are up here, divided in spirit, but together in soul. We know he wants the best thing for us, for the community. We want the best thing for the community. I have no interest, zero interest, especially during COVID time, especially during this time, to add salt to a wound and devastate more jobs. I'm trying to protect your jobs, the lower part of Duval Street, middle part of Duval Street, upper part of Duval Street, and guess what, for the rest of Key West, because this will affect everybody. It's a domino effect that will be devastating to everybody. I ask everybody, urge you to please vote no, no, no. And let me give you a little tidbit real quick. You're probably turning around and going, why are you voting no on number 3? You don't get a hall pass on number 3. Everybody loves number 3. Of course you do. I get it. But there's no criteria to it. 0. Where's the criteria for number 3? Who's governing this? Where's the list? Governor Rick Scott and Marco Rubio, I think last week, put something together, making, I believe it's called the mandatory role for cruise ships, and it gives them a concrete list of things they need to do. This is already being exercised in Europe at a very, very successful rate, already happening in the Mediterranean, and it's happening right now. Look it up. So again, my pledge to you, and I'm sorry, Mike, I'm taking some of your time, my pledge to you is that on November 4th, after we win, vote no, 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 and on November 4th, we will sit down and make this work the way Key West is always meant to be, together.
I promise I'll be quick. Like Bill.
Hold you to that.
Hold me to that. Okay. Everybody in Key West is concerned with quality of life. It's one of the most important things. It's why we all live here. It's why we enjoy being here. But there's a cost to living in a tourist destination. There are certain things that happen in this town I don't agree with at all. When they put in the parking shuttle bus for the $19 fares to bring tourists to Key West, I was appalled. I don't understand. The TDC tries to bring in 4- and 5-night stays, and $19 fares to Key West is not what we need. We all want a better quality. I mean, we all sit on the same side here. We want more tourists with more money that want to have less impact and less tourists, so it works. But to cut it off at the knees doesn't work. We need to take the time to plan this out.
Sure. There hasn't been a cruise ship in Key West since March. The CDC no-sail order has been extended 3 times and now runs through the end of October. It'll probably be extended again, at least through the end of the year. As I mentioned earlier, last week Carnival Cruise Lines canceled most of their sailings through next spring. They sold off 18 of the large cruise ships, a lot of them which used to come to Key West. So with or without the referenda, Key West will go an entire year at least without seeing a single cruise ship. This referenda offers voters a once-in-a-lifetime chance to make a fresh start with cruise ships on our own terms. We never voted for the ships we get today. We never voted for the environmental damage they bring, for the overcrowding they bring to our streets. These ships threaten our health and they damage our reputation. They provide mere pennies on the dollar that other tourists spend. Small ships make up the cruise industry's luxury and premium market. Their passengers spend up to 10 times more on ticket price alone than the big market cruisers we see today. Small ships spend more time in port, they visit more attractions, and they spend more money. Small ships have a lower risk of disease and less impact on our waters. So after 30 years of unchecked growth, it is time for the people of Key West to be heard on this issue. As ships start sailing again sometime next year, choosing safer, cleaner, smaller ships will help protect our health, our environment, and our way of life, while helping us build a stronger and more sustainable economy for the future. So please vote yes, yes, yes on November 3rd and help us move into the future.
Go ahead, Will. Yeah, and I'd like to close with nothing really having to do with the facts here, but to say that, you know, surrounding the whirlwind of this whole issue, it's been said that, you know, some of us don't live here, we're not from here, so on and so forth, and that's just not true. I see Mike almost every single day. I eat in Bill's restaurant, and it's true, we've had engagements, and I look forward to, you know, more of it on this issue or other issues, and I just want everybody to know that we have a lot of respect for each other here, and that we're from here and we all care about this, regardless of which side we stand on. And I just want to make sure that the public out there knows that this debate's being conducted, you know, among friends who disagree.
I think good words, Will. And something very important that differentiates these 4 individuals from everybody else up here tonight is that politicians are, I mean, they're vying for a position and they're going to make millions of dollars, well actually not millions of dollars. Too, I mean, it's a thankless job being a politician, but they're there to win something for themselves. All these guys are getting is horrific Facebook posts for the rest of their lives. So thank you guys for taking this unenviable position of being here on camera. It's going to be recorded, and I can't imagine the brutality you're going to just unfriend everybody. So, and to our panelists, thank you so much. It's been a long night. To all our members and everybody on television, Clinton said we had over 200 people just on our website feed. So I can't imagine how many are on the 2 county channels. So we will see everybody again October 5th for all the state races. state attorney, state rep, state house, and U.S. Congress, and I think everybody's confirmed. So that should be quite a night. Thank you, everyone, and send us some checks. Bye.